Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Cucchiara, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate
3 to 4, you could tune in. A little bonus time for you on Wednesdays and Fridays. We're with you from 2 to 4. A couple different ways you could listen. One is on the radio, 𝗘𝗀𝗋𝗓 1220 AM. You could also listen to us live online if you go to 𝗘𝗀𝗋𝗓.biz. And the thing we're most excited about is our podcast program. We launched that nearly 2 months ago, and it's really, really going well. Spreading like wildfire, thank goodness. And you could download the podcast. Go to 𝗟𝗡𝗙Radiolive.com. It's also on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, podcasts. You can get them everywhere now. And real excited about that. We realize not everyone can listen to the show from 3 to 4. So we're going to give you the opportunity to listen to that content in other ways for sure. We're a live show. We love your calls. There's a couple of ways you could communicate with me and my guest today. One is the toll-free number, 1-800-516-1220. We also have a live text line, 408-838-9060, if you'd rather text some of your questions. Let me invite my guest in. No stranger to the show, Mr. Jeff Hare. He's attorney at law. Jeff, good to have you back.
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be here.
You're a busy guy, hard to pin down. We're lucky if we get you every couple months or so, or at least a couple times a year. We're going to get into that. But so Jeff is an attorney for over 30 years. I'll let him go through all of his background, but this is a man that's very busy, but is really passionate about his job, his craft, and what he does, and helps people in many different ways. So we're going to talk about today the topics, the 5 secrets to keep legal costs under control. And if any of you have dealt with any kind of legal costs, you know what I mean. To try to keep them under control sometimes. And Jeff is an expert at that. So, Jeff, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your background and then the area of focus today and the many different things that you are in the process of doing today.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Joe. Well, as you know, I've been an attorney, real estate attorney and land use attorney for about 30 years. Mm-hmm. I teach part-time for the last 16 years at Santa Clara University School of Law, currently teaching negotiating. Mm-hmm. Always an eye-opener to teach. You learn a lot from your students. And I'm also working as a mediator. In addition to that, I have a few volunteer projects, but mostly that's what I've been doing.
And he's got a family, and he's trying to. This guy is a busy guy, but they always say, what do they say? If you need something done, give it to the busy person.
That's right. It'll get done.
It'll get done. All right. Well, so the 5 secrets to keep legal costs under control. Maybe before we get started, a little bit about the industry. Maybe just an overview in terms of. Are you seeing in terms of real estate more legal issues, concerns, things that are rising? Is it staying about the same, or what's kind of the state of the industry, if you will?
No, it's good time to look at where we've been. We just came out of a terrible recession. The market's picked up. It's been very active. Mm-hmm. So as a result, we're seeing, of course, a lot of litigation. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are fighting over the dollars. Mm-hmm. And but one of the big disturbing trends that I've seen in the courtroom is that more and more people are trying to go it by themselves because they're trying to save money. Mm-hmm. And this goes from doing research on the internet and getting advice from friends and BFFs and not consulting with legal professionals. And it's having a ripple effect. Some people are getting into some serious trouble with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. We have experts on the show all the time, and the show's focused on education and information. And I know you're a big believer in that as well. As all of us, certainly most of us, have an expertise in a certain area. The best thing to do is try to stick to that and hire people for the rest stuff, right? I mean, it's pretty simple if you can.
It's really more cost effective in the long run, as we all know.
Yeah. I mean, the long run. So we have topics all the time with real estate, the conversations, real estate agents, the commission, the number of commissions, the amount of money. The bottom line, if you find someone that is really good and you trust, the money part really doesn't matter in terms of the commission thing, because as Jeff's going to talk about, and you're seeing it already, is a lot of issues with people either trying to do it by themselves or potentially taking shortcuts. Right,
and I think taking those shortcuts is people think, well, I can handle this myself. I'm a handyman or I'm, a handy woman, and I can deal with it. And they transfer that over into something. And, at some point, they really do need some professional help. We know every single real estate form says consult with an attorney. They're getting advice from the real estate agents. They're getting advice from their relatives. They're getting advice from others. And in a way, that's good, and I encourage my clients to get involved in self-help, but as long as they bring it back to me so we can do a reality check.
Got it. Perfect. If you're just tuning in, again, this is 𝗘𝗀𝗓𝗧 with Real Estate Radio Live. I have in studio today, our guest is Jeff Hare. He is an attorney at law, over 30 years practicing law, and we're going to be talking about the topic today, 5 secrets to keep legal costs under control. If you have any questions for Jeff, any legal questions, maybe just in case or something's potentially coming up, maybe you have a friend, family member, someone that's dealing with something one way or another, 2 ways you can communicate with us, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text 408-838-9060. So let's get started. Number 1, in terms of the 5 secrets here, Jeff.
Okay, well, the first one, I think, actually the first 2 relate to insurance. I think one of the things that we find is that a lot of people end up in litigation and they don't think about their homeowner's insurance policy. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but a homeowner's insurance policy is designed to provide you some protection if it's an issue that involves your property. And this is if it's an investor property or the one you live in. Even if there is a question of whether or not there's coverage for what you're being challenged about, more often than not, the insurance company at least will investigate and provide you a defense. The other type of insurance, and really the second best kept secret, is if you're an investor or you have some income property, is make sure your tenants have renter's insurance. Renter's insurance is incredibly good. It covers a wide range of problems that are not covered under the owner's policy. So the tenant will be covered for a wide range of things such as damage to their computer or their clothing, their furniture, and it's very cheap. It's like $12 to $15 a month, but they have to get it themselves. So that's one item. The other item that within that insurance is if your property is vacant, you have to make sure you have the vacancy coverage. If your coverage is you didn't get the vacancy coverage and you have your property is vacant for more than 60 days, and you have a problem, you could find yourself having to get out your checkbook. Okay. So those are the first 2, basically insurance. So don't overlook those when you're starting in and facing problems.
So regardless of you're a homeowner or you're renting, insurance is important. The message is make sure you have enough coverage to protect yourself, the items, and you could fend off any potential issues there by having some insurance coverage.
Right, and I'll add one more that I've seen some examples of. A lot of people have been buying condominiums because in the pricing they're affordable. They get into a condominium and they don't realize there's a gap between what the association covers under their policy and what the coverage is for the inside of the condo unit. There's a area sometimes that needs to be covered for the exclusive areas outside of the walls that are sort of called exclusive areas within the common area. Again, the homeowner has to have coverage for that area.
Yeah. And this would be also something, I guess, if years go by, I run into this, doing finance and refinancing. If someone hasn't done any kind of financing on their property for 10, 15, years, things change in the insurance game, and the liabilities and different components come up. So this is something I guess they should review. Hopefully their their agent is reviewing this with them occasionally.
We would hope so.
So those are really the first two things that you see to really to save off, I should say, legal costs to keep them under control. What would be? We just got a couple minutes in this in this segment, I should say. What would be the next one?
I would say the next thing is property management.
Okay.
If you are an investor, a lot of people think, again, I can do this on my own. I can do my own legal advice. I can do my own plumbing work. But reality is, you really do need to have a good property management company to manage your property. They're worth their weight. They screen the tenants. They recruit the tenants. They make sure that the repairs are fixed before they become serious problems. So again, it's a secret in the sense that it's not well explained, but good property management is definitely worth the added cost, and it'll have returns over a long period of time. Yeah,
and I think the other thing that I've heard and seen, I have rental properties myself, and I talk to investors all the time. In the conversations, the issues come up too. Let's face it, a lot of times most of us have a hard time separating personal from business. And if it's our rental property or home that we used to live in, if it's our property, we take it more personal. the idea also, I think, is if you have a property manager, something comes up, it's not going to be a personal issue with your property manager, right? I mean, it's a business thing.
That's right. It's a business decision. And I'll just add to that is even if it's your own home, I think the equivalent of that is consulting with a good licensed contractor to do the work. Making sure that your contractor is licensed and has the right workers' comp is another thing that people tend to overlook because they're looking for the best deal. You get them into a lot of hot water real fast.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I know it's specifically not one of the things, but that is something that is a big deal, especially when you're getting work done, if there's permits involved or different things that could come back. A perfect example, something come back, a damage, water damage, anything, and they're going to blame the contractor potentially or maybe, and if they find out later they didn't have insurance or enough coverage, in some cases, they may not even been licensed.
And that's always a problem. If they don't have the license, pretty much there's no workers' comp, and if they have any helpers on the property, they could end up being your employee as the property owner.
Yeah. Are any particular properties, Jeff, I know you mentioned condos, are those really the ones that are a little more tricky in terms of insurance and making sure the coverage versus the single-family, townhome, the different multi-unit? I mean, what's the...
One of the things that I've seen is that's one of the less well understood areas that people get themselves into because there's so many documents between the CC&Rs and the bylaws and the rules and regulations. They go through escrow signing, literally hundreds of pages of documents, and then, they think everything's in there. I just had a client recently who thought they had everything, and I said, "Where's your policy?" And they kept handing me the association policy because they thought they had it. It turned out they had no coverage. And, this happens from time to time. Now, when they're working with a reputable lender, the lender usually catches that. But it's an area of a problem. But it's across the board. Getting proper coverage under an insurance policy is really a good way to save money in the long run.
Yeah, very good. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot of good questions here. And if you have any questions for Jeff Hare, again, he's with me for the entire hour. He's attorney at law, and 30 years Jeff's been practicing, a lot of experience. If you have any questions about property, we're getting into the topic 5 secrets to keep legal costs under control. 1-800-516-1220, 40 studio. Our legal expert, Mr. Jeff Hare, as attorney at law. Topic today is the 5 secrets to keeping legal costs under control. And I believe we have a caller on the line that has a question for Jeff, and I believe it's James. James, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, James, how are you today?
Good. Pretty good.
Good. Do you have a question for Jeff?
Yes, I do. I live in Hidden Valley Lake, and I had an investment property, and it's a duplex, and it basically burned to the ground due to the Valley Fire, September 12th. I received a check from State Farm probably 3 weeks ago for a little over $275,000, and the property foreclosed. It foreclosed around October 24th, and I was told by the bank that the check is mine now, but the problem is the check is in my name and the mortgage company's name together. So is it mine, the whole check, or
wow?
Now that it foreclosed.
Wow.
Well, James, that sounds like a tough situation, but properties generally don't go into foreclosure overnight. Can you tell me a little background about the foreclosure?
Yeah, it's basically it's been about 9 or 10 months since I stopped paying, and then I called the bank and said it foreclosed, and it's an REO bank owned around October 24th. That's what they told me.
Okay, well, James, the only thing. Obviously, I'm not giving legal advice over the radio, but my recommendation is it sounds like something you have to go negotiate with the lender. There's probably non-payment of the mortgage is grounds for foreclosure, and there's a statutory process there. But if you go talk to the lender and directly, and you're going to have to be patient and try to work something out, but they're probably looking to recover some of the money that was owed, And the bank took it back, so you might want to go talk with them and see what you can work out.
I did talk to them several times, and all they did to me was send me in circles. The lost draft department, mortgage department, REO department. I must have talked to each department 5 or 6 times. No one wants to give me an answer.
Right. Well, this is where I'd recommend, talking to an attorney, hiring an attorney up there and having them work with you, because this is unfortunate. The banks have done a terrible job in the customer relations department with lots of misplaced paperwork and lost files. There's no question that they've done a terrible job. But at the same time, when there's non-payments of mortgages, there's obligations that have to be resolved. So sometimes you have to hire a professional to go in. Again, this is one of those classic examples of you're trying to do it on your own and it keeps dragging out because the banks don't feel motivated to talk to the individuals, and they will respond many times when an attorney gets on board. It's going to cost you a little money, but it's probably going to be worthwhile. And if that's too expensive for you, there are some legal services that, for helping homeowners, you might be able to talk to, and maybe they can go to bat for you.
So you would suggest finding someone up in his area to handle something like that?
Absolutely, because what will happen is someone up in that area has probably dealt with some other similar properties. So many homes got burned and so many problems developed that they should have some background knowledge of ways to resolve these issues.
Yeah, he's absolutely right, James. Either legal, and then there is some HUD services and things if you go online, some of the help that they could help you with potentially. But, I mean, unfortunately, right or wrong, you're probably not going to get their attention unless you do something like that to hire an attorney.
I'm just afraid if I was told to send the check in and then they would sign it and send it back, but I'm afraid if I send it in, I won't get it back.
Yeah, don't do that. No, get some professional help from the local community there. Hire, to contact a lawyer or find out if there's a homeowner assistance program in that area.
Okay. Well,
good luck, James.
All right.
Yeah, good luck, James.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, but that's a lesson. Obviously, Jeff hit it there for those that are listening, and they don't foreclose overnight. So there's some history there. Really turns out there's some stuff in the background. But the bottom line is really this. When we come back, we'll continue. But get the right help. Hopefully get the help in advance, because this is an example of not getting help in advance, and now you're going to struggle more at the end game. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, much more. If you have any questions for Jeff Hare, attorney at law, 1-800-516-1220 come up. So if you have any questions out there, there's a lot of stuff around legality and what you can and can't do or shouldn't do. But really the topic today is try to avoid the legal costs. And the way you avoid a lot of costs in general, but our topic today, Jeff, is to do as much as you can up front, right?
That's right.
In everything you do. And specifically, we're talking about real estate and any kind of transactions. But hire the best people, get the best help, get the best advice, get the best contracts, do all this stuff you can, the best you can up front, so that if something does come up, you're better off typically.
That's what we would hope so.
Right. All right, so if you have any questions for Jeff, we're going to continue through this, the 5 secrets to keep your costs under control, your legal costs, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text 408-838-9060. So let's jump back to the 5, Jeff. I think we're at 4. The 4th in terms of the ways to keep the legal costs under control. Yes,
Joe, we covered insurance as an often overlooked area that people need to look at, and I mentioned that property management is a important thing. The 4th one that I focus on is the need to get it in writing. Okay. This can't be overemphasized, and it is often, but we tend to be, as human beings, we tend to accept oral promises. Mm-hmm. And there's really nothing wrong with a good handshake and an oral promise, but put it in writing. Yeah. Your memory is not that good, and sometimes, things will happen. We'll see a case where, 2 people make a deal, and then one of them passes away, and the spouse is left with nothing but the memory of a conversation that took place between her spouse and another party in a deal. So getting it in writing is a giant step towards solving a lot of disputes. One of the other things is not only do you need to get it in writing, you need to read it. We see these huge documents, and unfortunately, the legal profession has not made things simpler or shorter, but it's still incumbent on every property owner to read the fine print, to go through the contracts. One of the scarier things in the development of late is the issues with the DocuSign. And I don't mean to pick on DocuSign. They're a fabulous company. There are other electronic signatures that are out there. But the software apps that are used now allow you to complete a complete real estate transaction using your smartphone. I have to believe that people that are doing that are not reading every word in the contract. But when you click, I agree, you click that you've signed a document, you are legally binding yourself to the terms that are in that agreement, and you're going to be held to that in a court of law. So go ahead, use the electronic signature process, but print out the documents and read them carefully, and then, consult with your lawyer to find out what does this mean before you sign it.
Right. Yeah, very well said. So not only get everything in writing, read it, and it's very, very important. There's so much that could be said verbally. We don't have to go round and round with that, but there's so many different things that could change in people's different interpretations. So get it in writing for sure. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we are going to continue. If you have any questions for Jeff, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text those questions, 408-838-9060. This is Joe Cucchiara with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back to continue in just a couple of work contracts, agreements in advance of no matter what you do. So we're going through these top 5. We're at number 5 now, Jeff, and this is probably one of the more important ones, huh?
Oh, it absolutely is.
Save the best for last.
That's right. Park your ego. This is the one that said that people have to learn that, we understand it's emotional to get involved in a dispute. A lot of people go through their business transactions for years or real estate deals, and everything goes fine with a partner or a colleague. And all of a sudden, a dispute arises, and it's a problem. And conflict happens in our society. Conflict is a part of our life. But when it goes into a dispute with someone you've been working with, it can be very emotional. And if the parties don't get it resolved, it erupts into a lawsuit. And it's like a small fire. It can quickly grow out of control. And the worst thing you can do is ignore it. The worst thing you can do is get highly emotional about the fact that someone else has actually sued you in a court of law. But it also can be one of the better processes make available to you for solving that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. But right now, I just emphasize the fact that you have to put the emotions aside and deal with the issues that are that cause the dispute. Go back and figure out, how did you get here? Because it may provide you a path for getting out of it.
Right.
Second of all, oftentimes it's a business transaction. The party is simply trying to get some money. They felt it was wronged. You can sit down and negotiate something and work it out. If you want to fight them and, extract revenge, rather than justice, as we say, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You might want to do that, and you get your day in court, but it can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right. Yeah, so, just really take that what do you, I guess the hard part is you don't teach something like that, right? I was just thinking, it's like you can't read a manual to park your ego.
No, you can't.
I guess you could, but how much good is it going to do? But that's well said. I think the bottom line is that it isn't that, again, one of the ideas of hiring someone like yourself when you get into a situation where you're either amped up, stressed out, or something's happened where it's obvious it's going to get emotional, or maybe it's going to turn into something that, and it's difficult, we all know, to make sound decisions. We're in that frame of mind. Sometimes
we need a buffer. We need somebody professional who can come in, break it down for you, look at what the real legal issues are, and advise you of what your rights are. You may have overlooked some things that you really didn't see because you were caught up in the emotional aspects of it. You may have something against the other party that have coming to you that you didn't realize you had. But again, having an objective buffer in the form of a professional representative is often a path towards getting the matter resolved. And even if you can't resolve the problem, as we say, you can sometimes settle it.
Got it. Okay. Any other things? We have a couple minutes left in this segment, and then the last one. Any other things listeners should know about how to save some legal costs?
I would say the there's some old, there's some good standard procedures in any transaction. If you have good notes and you keep good records, the lawyer often, that's the first thing they're going to ask. What do you have in terms of notes? I ask my clients to put together a chronology, a timeline that sort of lays out step by step how things occurred. Because if you have that process going on, the client usually starts to remember things that were important or significant that they may have forgotten while they were getting upset about the problem. So keeping good notes, keeping a timeline, keeping the documents there. And again, if you're really good about keeping good notes and keeping the communication open, you're going to avoid some of these problems to start with, which is the best way to save money and to begin with. The best way that you can avoid drowning is stay out of water. But sometimes the water comes after you, and that's why we have flood insurance. So, but mostly what we're trying to do is make sure that you try to take a deep breath, take a step back, and when you're faced with a possible challenge or you see things not working out as you planned, get some situational awareness going. Look around you, see what's going on, and get an assessment of the situation, and even maybe consult with a lawyer preliminarily. Just, what do you see? And a good lawyer who has been involved in these types of transactions may spot some problems that you can't see and can give you some guidance. It's a lot cheaper than, going into litigation. Yeah.
What I was thinking, but we've seen a lot of activity lately, Jeff, a little off topic here, but similar, with people buying properties out of state.
Right.
I mean, a lot of interest in the last couple of years, a lot, which is great. Anything that people should know about if things are done out of state? They buy a property in Texas or Wisconsin or Atlanta. Any differences there legal, or each state's different? How does that work?
Well, one of the things you're at a disadvantage of is that the legal issues for each state are going to be a little different.
Okay.
So you're going to have to make sure that you're, again, having a property manager that has some legal resources available for you in that state that knows that state's laws is invaluable.
Yeah. So in other words, if you're going to invest out of state, be careful, because don't assume that your property's in California, that's the same deal.
That's correct. You really do need to do it. People come to me and ask me if I help them out with a property that's in another state. I don't practice. I'm not licensed to practice there. So I have to tell them, you're going to have to hire a local attorney to help you with that, unfortunately.
And are you licensed to practice in California only? How does it work with your...
Yeah, California is somewhat unique. If you're licensed in California, that's probably where you are, unless you've gotten and taken the bar in another state. A lot of states have some reciprocity, but California is unique. They don't have that agreement with other states.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm laughing because you said California is unique in so many different ways.
That's correct.
So many different ways. All right, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're going to finish up. So now would be a great time if you have any questions for Jeff, any legal comments, issues, concerns. He is an attorney at law over 30 years. The topic today, 5 secrets to keep the legal costs under control. We're going to come back in a little bit. We're going to wrap that up. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you could call 1-800-516-1220 or text 408-838-9060. Joe Cucchiara with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back to finish up in just a couple minutes.